Shalom to you and welcome. In the last video, we looked at the tangent ratios of a trigonometry, and we defined that as the ratio of the opposite side over the adjacent side. In this video, we're going to look at the sine and cosine ratios. So for example, if we are given this triangle, we're asked to find x and y. If you look at this, there's no way we could find x and y because we're going to have both variables. If we find tan 26, it's going to be opposite over adjacent. We can solve when we have two variables at the same time. If we look for tan 64, it's going to be opposite over adjacent. Again, we can't find it. So we need the sine and cosine. Okay, and sine is defined as the ratio of the leg opposite of the angle over the hypotenuse. So now hypotenuse comes into play. Okay, the sine and cosine uses the hypotenuse as their base, as their denominator. Tangent uses the adjacent as its denominator. So cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. All right, let's go ahead and look at the problem. Okay, there's an acronym that helps us remember these ratios, the trig ratios. SOHCAHTOA. So is for sine is opposite over hypotenuse. CA stands for cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. TOA, tangent, opposite over adjacent. Okay, so if you keep that helps a lot to remember to set up your ratios right and plug things in. This example one, we asked to express sine A, cosine A, and tangent A as fractions. So it's just all variables. So we can think abstractly without numbers yet. So we are focusing on angle A. So it's about angle A. So our focus is on angle A. So sine, I use black. Okay, sine of angle A is going to be, sine is opposite. So opposite over hypotenuse. So and sine, the opposite angle A is A. So it's A over, the hypotenuse is, okay, so we can let's label the hypotenuse is facing the right angle. So over C. So what's cosine? Okay, cosine of angle A, okay, the angle A still here, the cosine is the side adjacent to it. Of course, if A is opposite it, the other leg is going to be adjacent to it. So it's going to be B over the hypotenuse. So it's going to be B over C. This is cosine, so the cosine. And then the tangent of angle A, tan A, again when we come to tan, we don't worry about hypotenuse. So it's going to be opposite over adjacent. So it's A over B. Okay, those are the fractions they want us to express. And that the trig ratios. Example 2. Find the values of the variables. Okay, we have x and y as the variables here, and we are looking for the sides. We know the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is opposite the right angle. We have one angle, one acute angle. Again, make sure you differentiate between the length of a side and an angle, because they are not the same thing. So an angle is part of a whole. It's out of 360 degrees, but the length is a whole number. So now we have to make decision. Which trig ratio are we going to use? Are we going to use sine or cosine or tangent? Again, we write our guide here. SOHCAHTOA. If we write SOHCAHTOA, and then, so we focus on, we have angle 37 is the only angle we have, angle 37. So we look at how we can connect. We need to have at least one variable and a number. So angle 37 is directly opposite x. So So we can use x and y. So, but if we use up x and 35, what connects opposite and hypotenuse? Opposite and hypotenuse. Opposite and hypotenuse. That's sine. Okay, that's sine. So we need to use sine to find x. Sine 37 is opposite, which is x, over hypotenuse, which is 35. Okay, and we can set that up and we can come back and solve it. Okay, which one is connecting to y? Y is adjacent to angle 37 because it makes both, it's part of the side that makes up the angle. Adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent and hypotenuse are connected by cosine. So we need to use cosine, not sine this time. Cosine of angle 37 is equal to adjacent, which is y, over the hypotenuse, which is 35. Okay, so we have set up so we can solve. How do we get this by itself? We can multiply both sides by 35. Multiply both sides by 35. So we do 35 times sine 37 equals, this crosses out, equals x. Okay, find our calculator. So plug in sine, do your sine 37 first. So 37 sine, what is sine? Okay, times 35. So that gives 21.06 equals x. Okay, and then that's our x. How about y? We do the same thing. We multiply both sides by 35. So it's gonna go 35 times cosine 37 equals y. Okay, use the right key. You're going to plug in 37 cosine this time. Cosine this time. Cosine gives us the number, and then we multiply by 35. 27. Okay, that's 27.995. Okay. All right, let's solve a word problem from your textbook, page 315. Okay, there's a bunch of them there. Okay, let's look at number 14. A guy Y is attached to the top of a 75-meter tower, which is the drawing. This is the tower, and it meets the ground at 65-degree angle. So, okay. How long is the wire? So the black line here is the wire. All right, so drew that out here. So that's the wire. We can represent it with a variable, maybe W for wire. And so we think of what we can use SOHCAHTOA to solve it. We're going to use sine or cosine or tangent. Again, we look at what we have. We have an angle. We have angle opposite the angle opposite, and then of course the pole is going to make a right angle with the ground too. So we have a right angle here. So this will be the hypotenuse. So that's the hypotenuse. And we have opposite and we have hypotenuse. Okay. So opposite hypotenuse is sine. So we're gonna do sine of angle 65 degrees is opposite, which is 75, over the hypotenuse, which is W. Now we solve for W. First of all, get it out of the denominator. Multiply both sides by W. Multiply this side by W. And that will give us W times sine 65 degrees equals, this we cross out, 1 equals 75. Okay, now W is out of the denominator. What do we do to get rid of sine 65 degree? This is multiplication. So we divide both sides by sine 65. Sine 65. So this crosses out. So the W is going to be 75 over, we need to find what sine 65 is. Use this calculator. Then we do 65 sine. Okay, that's 0.96. Okay, and we can round 0.9063. Now, if you really have this calculator, check to see if your calculator has a storing key. Like here we have a store key. So if you store key, since we are going to use this number again, we can just store it. So you go store and save it as my first code, store 1. And it's going to show a number here, a letter here, M, which is missing the memory. Do not clear it. So just type in 75. So now we do 75. Okay, 75 divided by, we're dividing by, so we divide by, we have 75 divided by, and then we're going to go to recall that number we stored. So we recall 1. Okay, and you're going to pull up that number, and then we hit enter. Okay, if you hit enter, it's going to give us 82.7. So W equals 82.7. Okay, let's round to the nearest length. So that will be 83. Okay, it's 83 centimeter. So because they gave us the unit, it's in centimeter, so it's gonna be in centimeter. Okay.